And I don't think that is good because it's like I am in a cage and not being
Imagine being a popular musician with hit songs and global recognition, yet living in chains. This happens to be the fate of popular Jamaican artist Eric Donaldson, who gave us unforgettable songs like This Is the Land of My Birth, Cherry O Baby. Born in the quiet town of Kent Village, Jamaica, Donaldson rose from humble beginnings to become a cultural star, only to discover that fame did not shield him from the struggles, betrayals, and harsh realities of life. His story is etched into the history of Jamaican music. The man who won the Jamaican Festival Song Competition not once, but 6 times, with classics that became the soundtrack of national pride. He sang not just for Jamaica, but for the world, carrying his voice to stages in Brazil, the United States, and Europe, where audiences embraced his authenticity and passion. And yet, behind the sweet melodies and festival crowns lay another story, one of bitterness, rivalry, and betrayal. For decades, Donaldson kept silent, choosing to let his music speak louder than his grudges. But now, at 78, he has finally broken that silence. For the first time, the veteran reggae star has revealed the names of 6 artists he hated the most, not out of petty jealousy, but because of wounds built deep into his journey, wounds of sabotage, exploitation, and outright disrespect. What he shared about the name on number 2 will leave you in disbelief. Starting with number 6, Gregory Isaacs. Far back in 1968, Gregory Isaacs began his journey into Jamaican reggae music, creating singles for small labels before finding his breakthrough with My Only Lover, Isaac. Isaacs' silky voice, coupled with his effortless stage presence, made him an international star, earning him tours across Europe and the United States. Isaacs was literally known to be one of the coolest Jamaican reggae artists of his time. But in addition to that, he was also known for his sharp tongue that often cut down those he considered less talented, and he was always unapologetic about it. It all started in the summer of 1978, when Donaldson and Isaacs shared the same bill at a Kingston concert celebrating Jamaica's independence. Donaldson, already admired for his festival-winning songs, walked on stage with his full band, their harmonies and instruments lifting his voice. Isaacs, the self-proclaimed cool ruler, followed with his smoother, stripped-down set. Backstage, whispers began. Isaacs, known for his sharp tongue, laughed in the company of other musicians, saying, "Eric can't carry a tune on his own. That's why he hides behind a band." The words were deep, and what should have been a night of unity became the very beginning of an animosity that would stretch across decades. By 1980, it was no news that the both artists were at loggerheads with each other. Whenever Isaacs was asked about Jamaica's festival singers, he couldn't resist slipping a jab. He told a local paper in February that year, "Some people depend on festivals and big band sound to make them look good. Strip it down and there's nothing left." Fans and journalists knew exactly who he meant. Donaldson, known to be reserved, didn't respond publicly, but those close to him said he was furious about the drama Isaacs was creating. According to Donaldson, Isaacs was looking for a rival in him, and he never for once even considered him a rival. However, he hated how he was constantly made fun of by Isaacs. Years later, the wound had not healed. In 1991, during a radio segment on Jamaican music legends, Donaldson finally broke his silence. Without mentioning Isaacs by name, he said, "Some artists make a career out of mocking others, but they forget the band is the heartbeat of the music. Without it, the singer is naked." But Isaacs wasn't finished. A few days later, during a casual interview in Jamaica, he once again took a shot, laughing as he said, "Eric still needs a band to hold him up. Me? I can sing anywhere, anytime." The comments made their way back to Jamaica, reopening old wounds. Sources in Kent Village shared that when Isaacs passed away in October 2010, Donaldson kept his reaction brief but telling. The bitterness wasn't about one insult or one show. It was years of being mocked by a man whose words carried weight in the reggae community. Donaldson, proud of his craft and the musicians who supported him, could never forgive Isaacs for belittling him in public and private alike. Number 5. Peter Tosh. Donaldson and Tosh began reigning in the Jamaican music industry almost at the same time. Tosh started out as part of a popular band and gradually transitioned to a solo singer. By the late 1960s, he had already made a name for himself as one of the founding members of the Wailers. His militant lyrics and uncompromising stance against injustice earned him the nickname Stepping Razor. And when he went solo in the mid-1970s, songs like Equal Rights and Legalize It made it clear that he was a fearless voice in reggae. But Tosh's reputation was not built only on music. Behind the charisma and sharp political tongue was a man who, according to many in the industry, thrived on intimidation. Donaldson, who rose to fame through the Jamaica Festival Song Competition in 1971, soon discovered that Tosh's influence went beyond the stage. As Donaldson revealed, Tosh led a circle of tough loyalists who called themselves the Steppers. They were known for pressuring younger or less militant musicians to align with Tosh's vision of reggae. Musicians who refused were sometimes heckled at shows, blocked from bookings, or even physically threatened. Donaldson, a man who valued his independence and preferred to let his music speak for itself, wanted no part in it. But the more he tried to distance himself, the more direct the pressure became. In March 1975, after a rehearsal in Kingston for a government-sponsored cultural show, Donaldson recalled being cornered by two men connected to Tosh. They told him flatly that if he wanted to keep performing in Kingston's biggest venues, he had to stand with Tosh. Days later, Donaldson received another message, this time from Tosh himself. At a late-night gathering on April 2, 1975, Tosh reportedly told him, "Music is war, Eric. You either march with us or get crushed by the system." Donaldson, shaken, refused to join. The following months were filled with hostility. When Tosh was murdered in 1987, Donaldson expressed no relief, but also no sorrow. Instead, he remarked to a close friend, "He had power, but he used it the wrong way. That's why I could never walk with him." Years later, Donaldson admitted that Tosh was one of the people he never forgave. He said simply, "Music should be free. No man should have to join a gang to sing." For Donaldson, the memory of Tosh's intimidation remained vivid, characterized by coercion and fear. Number 4. Dennis Brown. Long before Brown came into music, Donaldson was already king as long as it had to do with reggae music. Dennis Brown's career as a reggae artist began in the 1970s, earning him the title Crown Prince of Reggae. The source of the tension, according to Donaldson, was Westbound Train, released in 1973, just 2 years after Donaldson had taken Jamaica by storm with Cherry O Baby. The track quickly became a hit, but to Donaldson, it was more than a coincidence that Brown's melody, rhythm, and phrasing carried what he believed were clear imitations of his own festival-winning anthem. Donaldson recalled a moment in late September 1973 when fans first drew the comparison. After performing Cherry O Baby at a community event, several audience members teased him, saying, "Brown put your song on a train, Eric." At first, he brushed it off, but the more he listened, the angrier he became. By October 1973, Donaldson could no longer ignore it. In a conversation with fellow musicians at Dynamic Sound Studio, he made it clear that his song had been copied and he didn't find it good. Brown, however, brushed off the accusations. In a 1976 radio interview, when asked about the similarities, he said coolly, "Music influence is natural. We all borrow from each other. That's how reggae grows." To Donaldson, this wasn't borrowing, it was theft disguised as inspiration. The feud lingered for years, creating invisible walls between the two artists. Even in the 1980s, when Donaldson toured abroad and Cherry O Baby was covered internationally, including by the Rolling Stones in 1976, he still felt that Brown had stolen a piece of his legacy back home in Jamaica. Number 3. Buju Banton. Buju, born Mark Myrie, stormed onto the reggae and dancehall stage in 1992 with Mr. Mention, an album that broke records in Jamaica. He followed it with powerful tracks like Till Shiloh, solidifying himself as one of the most influential reggae artists of his generation. His work earned him worldwide recognition, culminating in a Grammy Award in 2010 for Before the Dawn. But while the world celebrated Buju's rise, Donaldson harbored a very different opinion of him. Donaldson said without hesitation, "I hate Buju Banton because he is rude." To Donaldson, this wasn't a casual remark. It was a scar from years of what he saw as blatant disrespect. The first crack in their relationship reportedly came in 1993, when both men were scheduled for a concert lineup in Kingston. Donaldson, accustomed to mutual respect among performers, was stunned when Buju allegedly brushed past him backstage without a greeting. In Jamaican culture, especially among musicians, this wasn't just impolite, it was an insult. Donaldson later told friends, "He looked at me like I didn't even exist." By the late 1990s, things got worse. At a 1998 community event in Spanish Town, Donaldson claimed that Buju openly mocked his festival songs, calling them old man's music in front of younger performers. It wasn't just a personal jab, it was, in Donaldson's eyes, a dismissal of his legacy. In 2001, at a Kingston interview where both men were guests, Buju reportedly interrupted Donaldson mid-sentence, laughing off his comments about the evolution of reggae. People present at the scene shared that Donaldson was visibly furious. From that moment, Donaldson's disdain hardened into hatred. Even Buju's Grammy win in 2010 couldn't soften the bitterness. While the world applauded, Donaldson told a local journalist that year, "Awards don't change a man's manners. You can sing to the world, but if you don't respect the ones who sing before you, you're nothing." For Donaldson, Buju's rudeness wasn't about one even, it was a pattern. A consistent disregard that cut deeper because respect is everything in Jamaican music culture. Where Buju saw himself as the new voice of reggae, Donaldson saw arrogance, a young man unwilling to acknowledge the shoulders he stood on. And so, even as Buju's name went global, Donaldson refused to celebrate him. His message was simple, and he repeated it whenever asked. Talent without respect means nothing. According to him, Buju's unruly behavior was the same thing that landed him in prison. Number 2. Bob Marley. According to Donaldson, even though he loved Marley's works and remains inspired by his song, his bitterness toward Bob Marley had little to do with Marley's music and everything to do with his ego. Marley, by the mid-1970s, was already the global face of reggae, touring Europe and the United States, and positioning himself as a prophet-like figure in the eyes of fans. Donaldson, on the other hand, was just beginning to gain attention while looking up to Marley. But when it came time for Donaldson to take his talent beyond Jamaican shores, to his surprise, Marley stood directly in his way. In 1974, Donaldson had been invited to perform in the United States for the first time. It was a dream moment, the kind of opportunity that could elevate his career on the world stage. Yet, in order to secure approval, he needed a recommendation from established figures in reggae, Marley being the biggest name among them. Donaldson approached him, hopeful, respectful, and ready. What happened next became, in Donaldson's eyes, the ultimate betrayal. Marley refused. Not politely, not discreetly, but with a coldness that Donaldson never forgot. "Bob told me straight, if you want me to recommend you, you must first prove yourself to me." Without Marley's signature, his approval papers stalled. Bookings fell apart. Promoters withdrew their offers. That period, Donaldson's dream of touring the U.S. evaporated, leaving him stranded in Jamaica, watching others rise while he remained confined. "He literally kept me chained here," Donaldson said bitterly, pointing to the irony of a man who sang of freedom while holding back his own colleagues. The bitterness festered. Donaldson believed Marley used his influence not to uplift, but to dominate, ensuring that others could only advance through him. In Donaldson's opinion, Marley didn't just want to be admired, he wanted to be worshipped. And when Donaldson refused to bow, he paid the price with years of isolation from the international market. Marley, for his part, was dismissive of the accusations of Donaldson when he heard it. But dismissing it didn't make it untrue. Till date, Donaldson would acknowledge Marley's music, but his resentment always surfaced. Marley wasn't just the reggae leader the world revered. He was also the man who blocked his path and kept him grounded when he was ready to fly at that time. Number 1. Roy Rayan. Donaldson and Rayan are two names forever tied to Jamaica's festival song competition. Donaldson had already established himself as the undisputed king of the stage, winning the competition 6 times. Rayan, on the other hand, entered the scene in the mid-1980s and quickly rose to prominence, eventually earning the title Mr. Festival with multiple wins of his own. On the surface, it looked like healthy competition. But for Donaldson, there was nothing healthy about what unfolded behind the curtains. According to Donaldson, Rayan was not just a competitor, he was a saboteur. It started in 1985, the year Rayan first won with Love Fever. Donaldson was in the lineup that year, and while he didn't win, he recalled strange incidents surrounding his performance. His sound check was mysteriously delayed, and when his band finally played, their microphones had issues, cutting in and out. "It was the first time I thought, somebody doesn't want me to shine," Donaldson later said. By 1987, the tension escalated. Donaldson entered the competition again with a song that many thought would dominate. Days before the finals, he received a call that one of his backup singers had suddenly dropped out. Later, he discovered that the singer had been offered work with another competitor's camp, rumored to be tied to Rayan's circle. Donaldson never forgot the sting. He believed Rayan thrived on undermining him, not just competing with him. While Donaldson held on to the record as the man who defined the festival stage, Rayan became celebrated as the new face of the competition. Even as both men grew older and their rivalry cooled in public, Donaldson remained wary. "He wasn't just after the crown," Donaldson once remarked. "He was after me, and that's why I could never respect him." For fans, the festival song competition was a showcase of unity and joy. For Donaldson, however, the memory of battling Roy Rayan was filled with sabotage and rivalry lurked in the shadows that only him knew of. Let's know your thoughts in the comments section. Subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, like and share.